Come on, one time with one great voice tonight. Here I am, Lord, here I am. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. Oh God. All together lovely, all together worthy. Oh God. All together wonderful. Testing. What is a crucible? Okay, you say it's a. I know I love my board. You say it's a. Now let me ask you this, Brother Taylor. Is it the? Because I took chemistry. Is it the one that looks like this, or is it the one that looks like that? It's this one. But isn't it one that's like this though? That has like the measurements on it too?
You would heat everything up in different conditions.
Okay.
It all depends on what you're gonna heat.
It all depends on what you're gonna heat. So it could be this one, it could be that one, because this one here has little marks on it too, right? And then the other one. And what do we do with it? So fire.
Right.
I remember that. For my young lady. Because she just graduated. She goes, she's in the sound. Now I remember the little pan that was under there that got hot, that you set them on. I remember that. And I also remember the one you had the fire up under it, and you just kind of hold it with the tongs. What did you call it? A Boston burner. I remember that, and I've been out of high school a while, just a while, been out a while. So a crucible is something that you put different liquids or different things in and heat them up, right? And what are we looking for, Brother Taylor?
Well, one of the juice was to use the purities mixing together to form some kind of reaction.
Okay, so you're looking for a reaction out of it?
But this crucible I feel is completely making all pure, so the Lord is heating you up and with him to be.
Okay, so because I was thinking, I was like, what is a crucible? And of course, I'm always looking on the internet and you know, definitions and dictionary, and I was looking, what is a crucible? And that was good, Brother Taylor, because I didn't think of chemistry. When I thought about a crucible, I thought about I melt down lead because I go fishing. And when I melt down the lead, I put it in a big, well, mine is not that big. It's almost the size of this real life. It's about that size right there, and it's metal. And what happens is I throw the lead in there, and then I'll heat it up. And the whole pot gets hot. And once the pot gets hot, the lead, I put them in there in maybe 5-pound little circles. And they'll start to melt. And as they start to melt, what was once solid now becomes what? Becomes liquid, and it starts to fill up. But then something happens. Everything that had trash or dirt or impurities came up to the top. And then I took a little thing and I scraped that off the top and I get that out of there so that everything that I have inside my little, it's called a kilt. My little kilt is pure lead, 100% pure lead. And what I do with that is I make fishing baits and eggs and stuff to sink the bait with. I make them myself. That's what I thought about when I thought about a crucible. I thought about that metal pot that I throw all these things that might not be 100% pure into that pot, heat it up, and then once it heats up, all the stuff that's not good or that I cannot use, that's trash, I peel that out of there or skim it off the top of it, and then I get it out of there. So everything that's in my pot now is pure. And then I can cut the pot off, it'll go back solid. But if I heat it back up, it'll go back to liquid again. But everything that's in there is still pure. Well, it's saying the crucible to come. In the beginning of our Sabbath school lesson, it says, in the crucible with Christ. That's the quarterly's name, in the crucible with Christ. So if I was to ask the church from the illustration that the church that y'all just gave us, what can we gather from just the name or the title of the Sabbath school lesson, the crucible, in the crucible with Christ?
As you said earlier, we're in the crucible of Christ. As we are in this crucible, it's doing the same thing. It's taking, it's heating us up.
Okay.
All the trials that we go through, that the Lord allows us, He's there with us. And the impurities of our life is coming to the top.
Okay.
So He can take them away from us.
Okay.
We are pure with Him.
If the church would turn to 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. That's the memory text. And we can kind of mess around with the memory text just a little bit. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12 and 13. When you get there, say, oh, say amen. If you're not there, say, wait or oh my. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 and 13. And I'm going to read 12. It says, beloved, think it not strange concerning fiery trials, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. Verse 13. But rejoice as in such as ye are partakers of Christ's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. But the first part, 12, beloved, think it not strange concerning fiery trials, which is to try you. Now, why is that memory text so important to us, or important in what we're talking about with the crucible, with Christ? Because I ask every time that I'm here, I always ask the same question. How was our week? No trials. Did y'all hear me ask the young lady? No trials this week? Because if we're going through a week and we have not had any trials, then I can tell you something's wrong. We have to have trials every day, because trials show us something about ourselves. Now, I'm going to put this back up here. A little thing. And then now I'm going to ask again. I'm gonna put something inside of here. Now, I'm going to say that this container is us / me. That's the container. Okay? And how many people drove this week? Freeway? On the freeway? Somebody drove this week on the freeway? Okay. How many people cut you off? A few. So did you get cut off this week, Brother Taylor? I drive a lot. I get cut off. I was driving home. I stay in Italy, Texas, and it's down 35 going south, right past Waxahachie. And once I got past Waxahachie and exited off on my exit, on my road, it's just a little country road. 2 times or 3 times this week, a diesel almost hit me. On this one road, it's a 2-way, and it's a truck stop, and they're coming in and out of there. And a diesel was turning in, and one was coming out. But the one that was coming out wasn't supposed to come out. One was coming in. I had the right of way because he had a turning lane here, and he turned. And I swerved to keep from him hitting me and me hitting him. and then swerved back around him. And as I swerved back around him, I straightened back up, and right in front of me, about 50 to 100 yards out, another diesel was coming down the other way. And all of a sudden, I just paused for a second, and I looked, and I said, "Thank you, Lord," because had it been 30 seconds sooner, me swerving out of the lane that I was in to prevent from hitting him, the diesel that's coming down would have hit me. I would have swerved in his lane and I would have been wrong. But I was trying to avoid the other diesel that was wrong. So for me, I'm going to put this in here because that was a trial. That a lot of times we don't realize that's a trial. So how can I word that? Drivers on the road. I'm going to put that in there. Do y'all get where I'm going now? Okay, now, I think Sister Bethay, you retired, right? So you don't have to deal with people all the time, right? Okay. How many people went to work this week? Brother, when you went to work, any of your coworkers kind of irritate you this week a little bit? So we're going to throw coworkers. Y'all get where I'm going at? We're going to throw coworkers inside this crucible. Children, my children work my nerves every day. Children. Y'all get where I'm going? Bills. Relationships. Y'all get where I'm going, right? Government. We know they work our nerves. So we got all these things that are thrown into our crucible that's heated up inside of us. Now, see, here's the thing. Your crucible and my crucible is not the same. We're two different, totally different people. So what might get to you might not bother me. But when we're in the crucible with Christ, he knows, because it says that what? He is tried by the infirmity, by all infirmities, right? So he knows that if you've been tested, not tested, he knows about temptations, he knows about, so he wants all of these things to be put in. So I can tell you, I don't have to deal with coworkers because I'm self-employed. I don't have to deal with that. But I do have to deal with customers. And yesterday, about 5:30, my phone just blew up. Do you do any emergency calls? Can you come by now? I'm in DeSoto. I just made it home. My air's not working. I think I need Freon. All this is coming. And me, I'm already a caring person. If you're a little older, if you're special needs, if that pulls on my heartstrings, and then that makes me, if you got small children, in the past, I would just jump up and I would just go. But now I'm getting a little smarter, a little wiser. So I got customers. I don't have coworkers. My children, got a few of them, and grandkids. Drivers on the road, relationships, the government, bills, all those things are pushed into our lives daily, weekly, monthly. The crucible is heated up. Now, question. Peter said something, don't think it's some strange thing. Why would Peter say it like that? Y'all know I'm going to keep on until y'all start interacting with me. Why would Peter say, don't think it's some strange thing? That is, he said, don't. Okay. Don't think it's some random thing. Okay. I like that. What's another reason why Peter would say it in that way? Okay, here we go. When I first became a Christian, when I first said I was giving my life to Christ, it was something that was always said to me. And it says that once I became a Christian, all my troubles are gone now. Have anybody heard that before? Y'all heard that? Like, all my troubles are gone. So this is what happened. In 1994, I started hearing God's voice clearer. Like, you need to change your life. You need to change your life. I think I was like 21, 22. So my pastor at the time came to my house and prayed for me. And I said, you know what? I can hear God talking to me. It's something that I'm supposed to be doing. I really don't know what it is. It's something I'm going to do. He said, well, you need to do what you need to do what Samuel told Eli, or what Eli told Samuel. When you hear the voice, or when you hear that voice saying, calling your name, you need to say, here I am, Lord. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So I gave my life to God. I said, you know what? Whatever you want to do with me, I'm going to do it. And I was in the Marine Corps. So I drove down here to see my kids. And then I was driving back to San Diego or Oceanside, California. So I was driving back to Oceanside, California, and I was just playing my gospel CDs. Oh, I was having a good time. I gave my life to God. Everything's going to be okay. And everything's going to be okay. And boom, I had a blowout. Driving back to California, I blew out in Arizona. And, back then we didn't have cell phones. So I was stuck on the side of the road because I was 21, 22. I had a nice car and I had low profile rims on them. So I didn't have a spare in there. So I'm stuck on the side of the road and the police pulled up. I slept all night on the side of the road in Arizona. So I get up in the morning because the police knocked on my window. And when she knocked on my window, she said, everything okay? I just need to get to a phone to call a friend. So my friend came 4 or 5 hours to help me. So now I'm happy. I'm driving down the road and he leaves me and I run out of gas. So I have a blowout that he helps me. I run out of gas, so I'm asleep on the side of the road another night. And then I walk to the nearest gas station and call roadside. And I had the roadside that would take me to the nearest gas station and put gas in my car for me. So that happened. So I put gas in the car and I used my last $20 to fill my tank up. So I'm driving now. I'm happy. I said, okay, I'm going to be able to go back to my base and run out of gas again. Now, y'all hear what I said. When I was here, I prayed, gave my life to God, and everything's going to be okay. In the first 4 days of me giving my life to God, I would sleep on the side of the road, 2 of them. And the thought that popped in mind was, this Christian thing, I really don't want to do it no more. Because if I'm a Christian, I feel like God's supposed to take care of me no matter what, because I'm on his side now. Do y'all follow me? And sometimes, a lot of times, our lives don't go as smooth as we feel like they should go with us being Christians. So when Peter comes and he says, don't think it's a strange thing or what, brother? Don't think it's random that you run across fiery trials. Don't think it's a strange thing that you run across a fiery trial, because those fiery trials are there to do something for you. It's there to help you. So now it's about changing our mind state. And this is kind of where we're going to go with now. Now, what memory text was that again? Make sure everybody's with me. What's the memory text? 1 Peter 4, 12 and 13. Okay. The next text comes from, let's read the rest of 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. I read 12 and 13. Somebody pick up 14 and 15. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 14 and 15. I'm just start picking on people. Y'all not here with me yet. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 14 and 15. Somebody read it.
If you insult me because of the name of Christ, next, the spirit of glory rests on you. If you suffer, you should not be as a murderer or a thief, or any other kind of criminal, or even as a man.
I like that. Elder, can you explain that, what you just read to me? Can you explain that?
If you if you go to suffer, suffer for that which is right. Don't suffer because you have committed sin and you have done wrong.
Okay.
You should expect that. Is basically what he's saying. You should expect that you should suffer if you're wrong, but don't suffer for those reasons. Those reasons are givens.
Okay.
And because those are givens, what is not a given is that I'm a Christian, as you were saying, and why should I be suffering? Because God should have me.
Okay.
But he's saying that's the very reason why you should suffer and why you will be insulted. Because of the name of Christ.
Okay. So everybody got that, right? Okay, let me try to break it down again. All right. It says, if you're going to suffer, suffer for being good. Don't suffer for being a gossiper. Now, if you get into it with a friend because you went behind her or his back and talked about him, then it got back around to him that you was talking about him, and then now y'all into it, and now you coming across suffering, y'all into it, your friendship, relationship. You can't count that joy because you kind of, I call it, I used to tell my children this, you're suffering because of a choice, not because you were right in a sense. Now, I try to break it down as simple and as simplest forms. Can somebody give me an example of somebody who was right and suffered? Yeah, who was right and suffered in the Bible? Who? Last quarters, Joseph? Who else? Okay, Jesus, Job. Anybody else? Abraham was doing some lying, bro. Come on now. Come on now. Abraham suffered for some stuff he did. Oh, when he had sacrificed his son. You're not the lie he told. Okay. We're gonna leave Father Abraham out of it because Abraham did some stuff. Anybody else that actually didn't do anything that suffered? Who? Paul was suffering because Paul did some stuff. So let's use the one that we all know. Daniel. There go one. Daniel. Abel. Jeremiah. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay. Let's use one that we know for a fact we can pull from the brain. Job. We know Job suffered, right? And we know that the Bible said he was what? Righteous. So a righteous man suffered, but he didn't suffer because he was wrong. He suffered because he was right. So there is a possibility that you can be right in your walk with God and still suffer. Now the question is, why? If being with God is the good thing and the right thing, why should a Christian suffer? Okay. All right. I get an example that I give a lot. Here's right. Okay. When I was 10 or 11 years old, my grandmother, we stayed in the West Dallas projects, and she had a friend that was an elderly lady. And she had children that would come over to help her, and sometimes her children didn't. So my grandmother would ask me to go help her, take her trash out, maybe cook some green beans, warm them up for her, and help her out. She stayed a couple of houses down, a couple of projects down from us. Okay. And then all of a sudden, I would just get up for no reason and start helping her. I would go and try to cut her yard. I would go and set her trash out. I would go and help her. And she'd be like, let me give you some money. I didn't want to take no money from her, nothing. And my grandmother would ask, she said, you are really, really sweet. So I did right? That was right? That was right. Okay. The reason why I was helping the lady down the road, she had a granddaughter that was my age that was real pretty. And that granddaughter was always at her house. So I really wanted to be around the granddaughter. So I was doing right for the wrong reason. Y'all follow me? When we're talking about righteousness, you're doing right for the right reasons, not right for the wrong reasons. And sometimes in our Christian walk, I know years and years ago, I used to look at Christians, look at us. And I was thinking, well, they're not eating this and they're not doing this, they're not dressing this way. And they're thinking that because y'all are doing that, y'all gonna go to heaven. And that was my thought. And I was like, so that means that you're doing right for a reward of going to heaven. You're not doing right because it's right. You're just doing because you want to go to heaven. Or how about this one? You're doing right because you don't want to go to hell. Is that right? That's doing right because you're scared. That's not doing right because it's right to do. So what the brother was saying was Job was doing right because that's who he was and that was the right thing to do, and he suffered. Now we're talking about, how about you doing wrong? You're a murderer, backbiter. You always into something, a busybody. You a liar. You always stealing. You always doing something. And then by your choices, the consequences is something's always happening to you. So you're not supposed to count. You're supposed to just accept whatever happened to you. But what Paul is saying is, or what Peter is saying is, even though I'm suffering, I want to suffer for doing right and count that joy. Did that catch everybody? Because sometimes it's kind of rub us kind of wrong. I know it used to rub me wrong for somebody to tell me to count it joy when I suffered. You know how hard that is to be in pain or suffering and say, I'm gonna count it joy, brother. I'm going through it. But in your mind, you're like, man, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to suffer this. That was 14 and 15. Let's go 16 and 17, same chapter. Stop. Can you read that real loud? Yeah, that first part. Okay. Why does judgment have to begin at the house of God first? Us as Christians. Why does it have to start with us first? Y'all remember what Bruno was talking about in science? What's a crucible again, Brother Taylor?
It's a piece that heat up and take out pyramids.
Just one. This is two. And then the third. Now, we were talking about this earlier before everybody got here from science. One of them, a burner went on, and it was called a Bronson burner. The other one, they might have put fire up under it. And then this one, they might have just heated. But they put things in it, liquids, chemicals, or whatever, and they heated them up. And some of them, they mixed with each other. They wanted to see what reaction they got from the mixture, or they wanted to see what effect it had once you added the heat to it. Y'all follow me? Read that again.
For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God.
Judgment must begin, or the trials or the tribulation or the crucible must begin with us as Christians first, is because we don't help everybody else. Because if we're here, when we're going to people, we're going first of all with a pure heart. Second of all, with a clear conscious mind. It's hard for me to say, hey, brother, Terrell, you know you shouldn't be stealing. And the whole time I done stole everything I done broken everybody's house on the block. But I'm going in and tell him it ain't right for him to steal. So pure conscious wise, I can't do it. Or I can't tell him, me and Darrell been close for years. And Darrell would call me or I would call him, we would just talk, just talk. And how old are you, Darrell? You how old? 30. I'm getting old. He's 35. She was like, I remember he was in high school. 35. I'm getting old. But
Darrell, we played basketball together, played football together. He would come to my house, hang out with me. Me and Darrell go back. They actually thought he was my brother because they said he looked alike. I don't think he looked like me, but anyway. But I've sold something into him just from me being around him, talking to me. He saw how I interacted with my children, how I came to church. I was always happy about Sabbath school.